Hello, everyone. I'm Colin Tessier of WrestleZone.com. I'm joined by John Clark tonight to talk about WWE Monday Night Raw. John, how you doing?
Doing pretty good. How are you?
Doing pretty good, mostly because, John, it feels crazy to say 1 week after the egg debacle, but I feel like we've had two decent to good episodes of Raw in a row, and that is a very good thing. For a couple weeks there, it's pretty rough. I was feeling pretty down overall about the product, but here we are. We had some nice returns tonight. We had two title matches. We had some hype for one title match next week and one for the pay-per-view that is a little bit in the distance, but nonetheless stuff to look forward to, and that's always good. So with that, definitely feeling surprisingly positive for a Monday night at 11 p.m. So that is pretty darn good. So before we talk about the show here, just want to remind you all this show, everything we do here is available on all of our streaming platforms like on Spotify, YouTube, podcasts, whatever it may be. We've got you covered. So leave a like and subscribe. I don't even know where to start because there's a good amount of stuff to talk about. We could talk about the main event. We could talk about the returns. We might as well talk about the main event because that was definitely kind of the bookends of the show. But before we get into that, some general comments here. With DC Hunt saying Raw had a good feel tonight. Here's hoping to take this momentum into the new year. Well, DC, it is, as we record this, the second to last day of November. We've got a whole month of December. So we can hope, but that is definitely a long time to carry that wave. But like I said, I'm feeling pretty good, so I'm hopeful, more hopeful than I have been. Tim Yolanda saying it's a great night for WrestleZone. Just going to take that as general support. Appreciate you. Yeah, man, I'm feeling pretty good. It's Raw, it's good when Raw is good. You start the week off on a good note, you suddenly feel a lot better about the wrestling world, and it's pretty darn good. We're getting a couple comments about Miz and Edge. We'll talk about that soon, but first we do. Or at least I want to talk about the WWE title match because Seth Rollins came out early on and confirmed he had the breaking news that at day one on New Year's Day, Big E will defend the WWE title against Seth Rollins after Rollins had earned that title shot in the ladder match. And then, John, for some reason, we needed three segments to confirm that if Kevin Owens defeated Big E in the main event, he would be added to that match. Now, that's something we've talked about for a couple weeks now as a possibility. Not all that surprising to see that possibility there, play out, and it did. Main event time comes. Big Kevin Owens in the main event. We've seen this, I think, a couple weeks ago. Good match, can't complain. And the ending was very, very logical. And as soon as they set up, I was like, well, I feel like they're going to add Kevin Owens to that match, but I don't want him to pin Big E. Thankfully, he didn't. He provoked Rollins. Rollins attacked him, triggered the DQ. And there you go. They've set up a triple threat match for day one, which is a little bit of a ways away here. So it will be Big E, Kevin Owens, and Seth Rollins for the WWE title. John, what do you think? What do you think about this direction here, which has been the assumed direction that we've been going, and now it's official?
I think it is very interesting because it opens the door for a potential title change without Big E having to be involved in the kind of the decision. So I think as of now, it should be pretty obvious that we're either going to see Rollins or Big E win. I do think Kevin Owens will take the pinfall regardless of who wins, just because we know
Yeah.
the situation there with him potentially be his last pay-per-view match in WWE ever, at least for a while. Or it couldn't be. Who knows? Maybe they pull a swerve and he wins for all we know. Of course, I think that having this triple threat match, which we had kind of predicted this a while ago, and now it's finally happening, uh, just gives people a little bit, I don't want to say hope, but more of a just more to think about. It's not so obvious anymore that he's leaving if they're just throwing him into a championship match. But let's not forget that Adam Cole was in very, very large matches on his way out the door as well. But then again, they were pretty confident they would keep Adam Cole, and they didn't. I'm not sure what their confidence level is about keeping Kevin Owens.
It was the same thing with Bryan Danielson. His last match was the title match against Roman Reigns in the main event of SmackDown. So, and that was different as well. I think they really thought he would stay, or at least maybe take some time and then come back anyway. Obviously, that didn't happen. So yeah, I remain at least a little surprised that we're seeing this. That Owens is getting this title match presumably a couple weeks before his contract expires. Now he could stay. We don't know. But there's kind of a gamble there, kind of a little bit of a uncertainty. So, but definitely some comments here, as you said, John, adding some unpredictability, some uncertainty. With Stephen Chambers saying we could have Seth win at the pay-per-view, maybe give Seth a title run here, but on the other end, Brian Everett, if Owens does stay, maybe give him a win here and a title reign. That'd be fun. That'd be definitely a bit of a swerve, and I think that'd be. Obviously unpredicted. Like that would be pretty surprising. All things we were just talking about. But on the flip side here, Ed Zahari is saying he thinks Big E will win, retain it, maybe lose at WrestleMania. Now to who? As we've been saying for a couple weeks now, we don't know. Possible. Maybe if they build up another heel from now until then, I think that's entirely possible. But no, it is definitely, you have some unpredictability. They've got just about a month from today really to draw it out. So I think they're kind of in the catbird seat of like, hey, they can actually build up a pretty good match here, kind of really toil that uncertainty, kind of really make all three guys look strong. And, if they play the cards right, have a pretty darn good triple threat match where you can't really tell who's going to win. And that's just wrestling at its finest. That's what you want. That's what you want in a presumably a main event match, or at least for the Raw side, I think it's a main event match. So it's all good. Like, this is good stuff. Now we also had early on, before Kevin Owens officially added, we had Seth Rollins finally facing Finn Balor. That was a match that was supposed to go down last week, but then Balor got attacked by Rollins after they were brawling, and of course then Seth got attacked by the fan. So Seth was out this week, faced Rollins, good match, and then Rollins took the win. Now, before Owens was officially added in here, I kind of thought we might see Finn Balor get roped in, maybe to kind of draw us out. Because again, usually WWE, it's a problem of having not enough time, whereas now they kind of hold too much time, where it's like, wow, they got about 4 weeks of TV to really fill this out and try and draw it out here. So I kind of thought we might see maybe some tag team matches with Finn Balor, maybe you bring in Owens anyway, and this could still happen. But now that Owens is officially in the mix here in the title match, I'm not quite sure where Finn Balor fits in. Stephen Chambers wondering what's next for him. Wonder if we might see the Demon. Now, if you remember, friends, they neutered the Demon at Extreme Rules when he lost with rope snapping. I think they'd be much better off just leaving the Demon be for a while, trying to kind of have that just gain some distance from that, because that was not good. John, what do you think about Finn Balor here? I thought with this match, he looked good. I want better for him. And like I said, now that Owens is officially in the title match here, I'm not quite sure where he fits in, what he's going to be doing, because he lost here, and there's no real clear sign of a direction for him specifically going forward.
Yeah, I can see him kind of just falling into the mid card for now. Maybe nothing relevant. Maybe they could do something with him and Austin Theory if they wanted to, or maybe Damian Priest if they really wanted to. There are some interesting mid card matches they could do. Let's not forget, I think Edge might have name dropped Balor as one of his potential opponents tonight as well. So I wouldn't necessarily say he's been buried ever since they brought him to the main roster, as Brian Everett is suggesting. He did main event a pay-per-view. It was Extreme Rules, and he had people thinking, maybe there was a chance he could at least maybe win by DQ. I mean, it wasn't that couldn't have happened. But maybe it could have been more shenanigans than what there were, like the Usos beating him up and making him look still strong in the process. So I think that you can't just write him off and say that he's not going to do anything relevant, because I don't think that's true.
It's weird because there were reports before he moved up when it was still on NXT that some of the writers were like practically begging for him. Now, if those are true, I don't know, but just the feeling that he was this kind of highly touted, highly desired kind of player to have on the roster, and hasn't really done a whole lot. I know he was on the Survivor Series team. He's had this kind of mini feud with Rollins here, but he's definitely felt like a bit of an afterthought, because that Rollins had already earned the title shot. So it's been kind of this weird, almost an inevitability, because you knew that Balor wouldn't win, and so last week we had the match that never happened, and this week we had Balor attacked Rollins. I thought we were going to have 2 weeks in a row where we didn't actually get the match. That would have been a little frustrating. Then thankfully we got the match. Steven's saying he's guessing Finn versus Priest. I think that'd be good. That would be my I would assume probably most likely direction, at least in the short term. Maybe he answers an open challenge here. Again, even as kind of just a one-off, but I think that'd be a fun match there. Harman joking that Finn could get released. I don't know about that, or that he might depart otherwise and go to AEW. Who knows? We never really again, we can't really speculate on what's going to happen. We did have several references to releases tonight. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Speaking of which, and one of those references came in the segment that was not on the. I mean, it was partially advertised. We had the return of Edge, which had been advertised, and it was very interesting to see what the Rated R superstar would do in his first appearance on the red brand since he got moved over during the draft. And then it turns out his return set up the return of The Miz and Maurice in a very pretty surprising outcome. Now, I had a weird, like, not quite a hunch, but like something above, wouldn't it be cool if The Miz returned? Because like I had a feeling they needed kind of something. So when Edge came out, I'm like, okay, I'm not quite sure what he's going to do. Obviously, there's a lot of people talking about maybe we'll see Edge versus AJ Styles at WrestleMania. We've gotten comments in the past couple weeks about that here, and obviously WrestleMania being a ways away. It's months away. You know, Edge needs something to do now. And something turned out to be The Miz, and then they went back and forth here. You know, Edge insulting Miz insulting Edge, saying he should have stayed home. Edge making fun of Miz for being on Dancing with the Stars. This was the first time we've seen Miz since he turned on John Morrison back in August. Never got a payoff there, unfortunately. But this would be, I'm assuming this is the direction we're going, pretty much a first-time match that I can recall, at least as having Miz as like a world title guy. You know, but they may have faced off early on in Miz's career, but then Edge retired, and since he came back, we definitely haven't seen it. So this is a fresh matchup. I'm excited. I think Raw will be better off having these two guys, and based on the comments here, some of our viewers agree, or at least based on this one segment. Sean Akoff saying it was an awesome segment with Edge and The Miz. Brian saying it was enjoy the Miz Edge segment. Bit Milligan saying it was good to have Edge back. Definitely a bit of a kind of the talk of the town here, with Brian Everett predicting maybe we'll see them at day one. If they, again, having some time to build it up is pretty darn good there. So that's something to look forward to. Potentially, I think that'd be a real good match to have on that card. You know, this was definitely something pretty cool to have to look forward to. Again, it was pretty unexpected. Now, obviously, with Miz being done with Dancing with the Stars, it was. You feel like he'd come back sooner rather than later. But with Brian Everett saying that it was gold, that was a very good promo exchange here. But Noah or Randall Rollins saying didn't expect The Miz, maybe somebody like a Bobby Lashley. I mean, I'm glad it was a return. I think returns, I'm a sucker for returns having, you know, some kind of unpredictability. But what last week here was Steven Chambers saying that they felt like they watched the promo of the CM Punk and MJF over in AEW, and I kind of picked up on that too. It felt like they're kind of going for that. They definitely kind of took some heated shots at each other. Edge kind of, I didn't quite catch the specific line, but he basically said that The Miz kind of left for Dancing with the Stars and left his best friend John Morrison to get fired. I was like, wow, that's a bit of a harsh one. But John, what do you think about this? What do you think about Edge returning, Miz returning, and Miz and Maurice? Man, Maurice hasn't quite been in the mix, obviously having children and everything in recent years, but it feels one more with maybe some potential for a mixed tag team match with Miz and Maurice, Edge and Beth Phoenix. Some potential there, but definitely this was one of the more compelling kind of outcomes we saw tonight.
I thought this was the most interesting segment of the night as far as unpredictability and intrigue, especially for the future. I am not really sure who could possibly come out of this feud on top. I feel like they could both benefit from it. I love some of the lines that were dropped. You know, Edge was referring to Morrison being fired while Miz was gone. He made a reference to MJF and CM Punk naming him last week on their show. So I thought all of that just kind of was a back and forth that you don't really see a whole lot today. Edge is clearly still one of the best on the mic. We already know The Miz. I still think I get a lot of flack from this from people, but I did happen to agree with CM Punk's sentiment that MJF is literally just a wannabe Miz. I think The Miz is that much better, at least on the mic, than MJF. I just think MJF likes to say more edgy things. He presses the line more than Miz does, but I think no matter what how they choose to approach this, it's going to be good.
Oh yeah, I mean, for me, it's funny. Like weirdly nostalgic. When I was a kid, these were two of the, not, well, at least I guess when I was a kid, Miz was still very much up and coming. Edge was the top guy. But then shortly after, pretty much when Edge retired, then Miz became the top guy. And that was still very much kind of my peak fandom years. So this definitely kind of took me back. And like I said, it's weird because it's a fresh matchup, but it's two guys that have technically been with the company for a long time now. So, I mean, Edge being an exception, he was gone for several years, but Miz being a WWE lifer, again, this being a match he hasn't really had ever, again, or at least not since early on. So ironically, a fresh matchup with two guys that have just been technically, I guess, that are you think about being there for so long. There's something kind of interesting about that. But Eddie's saying even going forward here, Miz and Edge promos alone will be good, at least with the Miz, definitely complimenting his ability there. Nesha Kirsch agreeing that Miz's promos are good. I've always been a big fan of the Miz. He was one of my favorites back in the day, even before he won the WWE title. Him winning the title by cashing in on Randy Orton was one of my earliest legit mark out moments. I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy, So I have a soft spot for the Miz, and it's cool to see him feuding with a guy like Edge. I think John, as you said, both guys could stand to benefit from winning it. I think both guys could stand to gain from being in this feud, because both guys are that popular. But again, more praise for the Miz here, maybe unexpectedly. Noel saying that what he likes about Miz is when he cuts a serious promo, he says stuff that's true. They need a mix of serious a lot more. I mean, yeah, a lot of times you see some kind of a bit of a hybrid of serious and not so serious. Even in this promo, there's one thing that took me out of the Edge was like, oh, I could get the people to chant Miz sucks, and they did. That felt a little kind of campy there. But overall, I thought this was a very strong segment. I again, especially having no idea this was coming, I was like, oh, we're doing this now. I thought that was pretty darn cool. I'm looking forward to it. I would assume they're going to draw this out until day one for the first match. Hopefully they can avoid having them have a match on Raw until then, at least in a singles match. But otherwise, I don't know who they team with, unless they do more of the can they coexist thing.
We need a tag team match between the Miz and Maurice and Edge and Beth Phoenix.
That's what people are predicting. Maybe that's what we get at. Actually, I think that'd be weird. I think they would need to build up that more than just these couple weeks. Maybe that would
be like a WrestleMania type thing. I mean, the Miz has done this before with
John Cena, of course. Yeah, and so they could do that. Steven, meanwhile, maybe for a longer term thing for Edge, maybe if Seth Rollins wins the title, revisit their feud for WrestleMania. I mean, a lot of things are on the table right now. Edge even noted that there are a lot of things. Raw is kind of wide open in a lot of ways.
I love how the first name he said was AJ Styles, and people got all hyped up about it because that's the one that people want to see.
Yeah,
more than the other one.
I hope we see that for WrestleMania, because that is what I think that would be the most compelling thing that we haven't really seen yet. Kind of beyond something like this, and for a WrestleMania match, I think that'd be great. Both guys, elite talent tonight. AJ playing a bit of a quote unquote comedic blind gimmick, not so much, but on paper, I think that'd be just, I guess, pun intended, phenomenal. I think that'd be very, very, very cool. Now she's saying she was surprised that Marissa was Miz. I would agree. I referenced it a minute ago. Obviously, they've been focused on building a family. They've got their reality show, or shows even at this point. I think they've got a couple of things kind of in the pipeline. So I know they're very busy. They've got all these side projects. So no, it was a little surprising. Maurice was on an episode of Miz TV back on Raw in April, and that was the first time that I can recall seeing her in quite some time. So I don't know, and I would kind of figured if she's coming out when he's returning here, maybe they're going to be a package deal for now. That's kind of how I read it, just my prediction. But no, I think my biggest takeaway is that this was one of the more compelling things we saw tonight, that Raw is much better off having these two guys on the show here. And I would definitely agree with Eddie Zahari. Miz, or maybe at least with part of the sentiment, he's saying Miz is the best talker in WWE, and I especially agree that he says if only John Morrison was there, the feud would be good. At least Edge mentioned it, and yeah, like we mentioned a minute ago, with Edge mentioning that Morrison was released or fired, unfortunately. Definitely a big bummer there, but I'm sure John Morrison will go on, or whatever his name next will be, John will go on to do great things there. So I think this will be a very good feud. Looking forward to it. But again, that was one of the few fairly exciting, noteworthy things to talk about tonight. One thing I want to dive into, John. Last week we had the whole egg debacle, and I referenced that earlier on, where I felt actually pretty good. 1 week after that, hey, we actually had two pretty good episodes of Raw. But Austin Theory, the egg thing was not a one-off. This week we had a pretty early on backstage. We see Vince McMahon seated in maybe his temporary office. The walls are red for Raw, and he's sitting with Austin Theory. And he's like, "All right, pal, we're gonna watch the show together, and we're gonna see who can expect the unexpected." And it's like, all right. And then we actually got several segments of that with Vince trying to teach Austin Theory. But first, I should say, Austin Theory was like, "Oh, like, how's it going?" And then Vince said something like, "Oh, nobody cares how I'm doing. I've got irritable bowel syndrome, an ingrown toenail, and something else too." I thought that was pretty funny. I just half the time now, John, I just want things to be like entertaining. Not even if it's not like good, as long as it's like something like that. It's funny. No complaints here. But this very much to me like seal the deal. They are very all in on Austin Theory. They had him with Vince McMahon all night long in multiple segments, and then coming into the night, Vince slapped Austin Theory. So he definitely gave him the rub there, and it felt like this will be something more substantial moving forward. And this is something we've seen before. My first thought, as soon as Austin was sitting with Vince McMahon, was the Drew McIntyre chosen one thing from way back in the day. Even if it's not necessarily that exactly, something like that, where Vince kind of picks his guy. Noel saying it looks like Vince helping push Austin Theory. I just think this is kind of funny. Admittedly, maybe the more cynical part of me was like, oh, the Raw ratings are down. What do they do, John? They bring back Vince McMahon. And then what does he do? He helps put up Austin Theory. I thought that was pretty interesting. One comparison that I thought of before, Brian Everett pointing out, saying that Vince might see Austin Theory like an earlier version of John Cena. That's something I've kind of thought before as well. And quite literally here, maybe the building blocks of him trying to really hype up this new rising star on Raw. So, John, what do you think about this continual ascension of Austin Theory?
It's certainly confusing, the approach, because there's no really serious story or common sense being used here. Like, it was obvious whenever he said, do you expect the unexpected? And he's like, yeah. And then, of course, when they stand up, you knew he was going to slap him, and then he wasn't going to expect it. And that's exactly what happened. He didn't expect it. So then kind of felt like that end to the night kind of put them back to square one in a way. Like, okay, now next week we'll see what happens. I thought this was actually leading up to something bigger and better. Let's not forget that Austin Theory kept staring into the distance at something, but we're not sure what. And Vince didn't say what. He just said, "Quit looking over there." So I can't help but to think either something or somebody was over there, and it's going to lead to something bigger in the coming weeks. Usually when they involve Vince with something like this, they have a clear direction and an end goal. So I think we'll get to that point, but who knows when? I mean, it could be next week, it could be a month from now. It just really depends, I think.
I do think there's some fair expectation that if Vince himself is involved, you would think we've got like something kind of cooking here where it's there is going to be some payoff. I hope that's the case. I'm trying not to get my hopes up too much, but kind of can't help but assume that we're going somewhere. But definitely, again, whether you like him or not, Austin Theory has tended to be a bit of a divisive figure already in his young main roster career. Eddie Zahari is saying that he could be in for a major push. Again, that working with the Vince McMahon directly like that definitely seems to be the case here. And exactly, as I said a minute ago, it's not very common to be in multiple segments with Vince McMahon, as Eddie's saying here, unless Vince sees something in him. And I just couldn't help but think, like, imagine if you were in Austin Theory's shoes tonight. You're on TV with Vince McMahon multiple times, like kind of, interact with him as if you're like an actor, almost like interacting with I don't even know. I don't know the best comparison. I just for me, I'd be like scared out of my mind because like this, and it's especially the dynamic where it's like this is your boss. So if you mess up, like you're done, and this is live TV. So there's something like credit to Austin Theory. Like that's a very tough spot to be in. A lot of pressure. I thought he did fine. Like no complaints about him specifically in terms of like what he did or didn't do. But yeah, like this was definitely pretty evident of they are trying to. And I already thought this month, pretty much when he arrived on Raw, like they're clearly trying to set him up here. And now welcome to Vince. Definitely feels like that. And now the question is, like, how far can this go? How far can Austin Theory go? Noel saying it feels like Austin Theory will win Money in the Bank, maybe even be the youngest WWE champion. Could break the former record. I think the record's held by Randy Orton right now. Don't quote me on that. I thought at least that was the case at one time. Maybe it got broken at some point. But yeah, that's definitely my biggest takeaway here. Austin Theory definitely in line for some big things. Harmon Dakar is saying, at least we can see Austin Theory. We cannot see John Cena. Again, that comparison there being, that Austin is being positioned like a young John Cena. Now, a lot of people forget that Austin Theory was on Raw in the pretty much early pandemic era. He was
kind of with Seth Rollins and Murphy.
Yeah, very briefly in a couple of weeks. And he was also teaming with, I think it was teaming with Andrade very, very briefly. Then he was working with Seth. So he had some experience there, went back to NXT, and now he's back. So he's got a little more seasoning here. Steven saying maybe he could go as far as him winning the Rumble. I think that's much too soon, but he's working with Vince McMahon. You really can't rule anything out here. You really don't know. I think that's a high bar. I don't know about that, but in this company, man, you never know. You never know what's going to happen. But again, big takeaways here. Austin Theory very much being set up for success. And hey, far too often, and rightfully so, a lot of people, probably myself included at various points, say that WWE doesn't build enough young stars, on a regular basis. And here they are, at least very much trying to make a star. So, again, at least credit where credit's due for trying. But as Chris saying, so she, as a John Cena fan, does not quite see the comparison there with Austin being a young John Cena. And we all know that John Cena is Nesh's guy. And on the flip side, another comparison with Sean saying maybe Austin's more of a young Randy Orton. I think that's a good comparison as well. Orton being one of a kind there. We're not a little more distinct with his family legacy aspect. Austin Theory, I believe that's not the case. But I've definitely the comparison that he's very much positioned like one of those young kind of like franchise level stars that they really want to reach that level. And now it's just a question of if he can do it. So, again, definitely something to look forward to in terms of what happens next with Vince. John, you had said maybe kind of back to square one after we saw it night. And I'm not sure where we're going to go from here. But again, this is new stuff. It's good stuff, and more often than not, that's what I asked for. Just give me some new things every week. One thing that wasn't new, we had some tag team action here across the night. We had RK Bro defending against the Dirty Dogs. Pretty sure we already got this. We already got this match. I don't know if we got the title match, but we've already seen this, and we already saw the Street Profits facing American Alpha Academy. Several times. Raw desperately needs more tag teams. I think that much we can say. And somewhere sandwiched in between this was AJ Styles coming out wearing sunglasses because he was visually impaired by the fire extinguisher incident from last week. John, they are giving one of the best wrestlers in the world a vision impaired gimmick.
They're giving AJ Styles a Ray Charles gimmick. And yeah, I don't understand, especially after being name dropped there by Edge earlier in the night. It's time to break this team up. It's clear that's going to happen, and I think it should happen sooner rather than later, especially if it's in the cards to break up Orton and Riddle. You can't do all that at once. So,
yeah, we definitely, I think, had one of our first real clear indicators of that split tonight with Almost and AJ Styles. AJ tried to interfere. I guess he was kind of faking with his eyes. Like he tried to interfere with Street Profits. Didn't work, and he kind of blamed Almost for his not interfering successfully. And then there was some kind of clear stare down tension there. So I tweeted about it. I have to imagine maybe Rumble time. Again, we saw Almost dominate at Survivor Series in that Battle Royale. Can very much imagine he'll do the same thing come to Royal Rumble. So maybe we'll do that on the road to the Rumble. We definitely have some time for that. That would be my prediction at this point, and where we go from there, I don't know. Again, my hope is that we do get AJ and Edge for WrestleMania. I think that'd be fun. Be a very good program, very good match. But yeah, I think before that, presumably we're going to get that split. I think that'll be good as well. Because Almost a very talented guy, definitely got that legitimate size appeal to say the least, and he's got a presence to him. But like I said, I think that, again, the big thing here is that they need more tag teams. The Dirty Dogs are good. Bobby Roode is criminally underrated. Dolph Ziggler was great. Unfortunately, he just hasn't had. I guess his real like world title opportunities kind of petered out a long time ago, and now he's definitely in the role that he's in. So you knew they weren't going to win this match. Although some people seem to maybe there's a chance. I was like, it's too soon. Like I think very, very earliest, RK Bro is not going to lose the titles before day one. That would be my prediction. And then maybe we get a split like leading to the Rumble. But I would more think maybe after the Rumble, coming out of that, maybe in accidental elimination or something. I don't know. But it's too soon for that.
So you seem to be pretty convinced that this could be a WrestleMania feud here.
I've been saying that for weeks. Like if this is not a WrestleMania feud, I'd be very surprised because I feel like that's kind of the whole point. Like this is a classic like WrestleMania style feud, tag team partner. Like we all know that's going to happen, and they're getting along, and it's great, and they're funny, and Riddle's out there dressing up like Randy, and he's asking Randy to dress like him, and he put a wig on Randy tonight. He's doing all these things, but in the back of your mind, you're laughing along, but you know, this is where they're going. It's just a matter of when. It's not if, it's when. And I'm like, why? Like, there's no other place to do it than WrestleMania. Like this, it writes itself. It is presumably Riddle would win and it would like establish him. But, like this is, to me, it's like fundamental wrestling writing. It's like that. It's so easy. Like if that doesn't happen, I will be very disappointed. Like wow, like that. Do it. I hope to do it. I hope that we see that. More talks of tag team splitting. We saw the Mysterios tonight, and there was a report a couple weeks ago that they're going to be splitting up at some point. With Steven Chambers saying he thinks that the both these breakups of the RK Bro and the Mysterios could happen at the Rumble. Maybe. I hope they don't like kind of do too many of these splits in short order when you've got AJ Styles almost, presumably RK Bro and Mysterios. That's 3 teams. That'd be a lot to kind of like feel like you run the risk of that being a little redundant, but you know, I'm sure if they want to, they can find a way to make each one stand out. We'll just, and they all are different. I'm just saying, you know, 3 tag teams splitting up in like the span of a month would be a lot. But then at the same time, as I just said, Raw needs more tag teams. Splitting up 3 of them when you don't really have, any other tag teams like seemingly ready to fill in, maybe not the best move. So definitely something to look forward or to kind of just keep an eye on there. Like if you're going to have these teams split up, you know, who's next? And I don't really see anybody. The next champions, I would say maybe Street Profits, but who's next kind of like as the next contending teams, I'm not seeing many options here. So, you know, that's a problem. They need more depth there. One thing that bothered me tonight, they reunited the Hurt Business, and they've done nothing with them. We had Shelton and Cedric losing the series tonight very decisively.
Squash.
It was a squash, and Steven Chambers saying they deserve better than this. I think they've both been on main event recently. Just so that kind of unfortunately kind of goes to show you. And for me, I'm like, why reunite them if you're just not going to do anything of substance with them? I don't get it. It just doesn't make sense. They were a great group. They broke them up, presumably. I would say prematurely, but they broke them up and they bring them back, and nothing. Herman Takaris thing, RIP the Hurt Business. I mean, they're technically back together, but I would agree RIP their original because they were great for early on there. But back to the tag team split here. Michael's saying maybe they won't, or maybe not even maybe. He's saying they won't split any of them up. If you remember, John, they kept Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax together for 9 months. Or sorry, they ran for months. That was over a year. And I was sitting here week after week begging them to break them up, and they didn't. So good point for Michael there. Yeah, for all we know, we could be here in like February being like, oh wow, when are they going to do this? You know, I would assume by February they're going to break up at least one of these teams. But at the same time, they kind of like to, especially with that lack of depth, maybe they're going to ride it out as long as they possibly can, which is maybe a little problematic otherwise. But something that wasn't, well, on surface wasn't problematic was having seemingly the entire Raw Women's Division wrestle in one match. It was basically a 10-woman tag team match here. After we had a contract signing confirming that Liv Morgan will be challenging Becky Lynch for the Raw Women's title next week. We had a promo segment during this contract exchange. Liv had a good line about referencing or at least blaming Becky Lynch's big contract on her friends, the Riot Squad. She didn't name them specifically, but she said her friends not being there anymore. I think Nesha, Liv saying that her promo and line out with the fans was awesome. Got a couple of comments about that as well. People seem to enjoy that. But yeah, definitely adding some heat here. But part of the build here in this contract something was basically they're making fun of each other for crying, which seemed a little weird to me. With Becky making fun of Liv for crying last week, which is all right. She's a bully, like she's making fun of her for crying. But then Liv was making fun of or criticizing Becky for crying after her very emotional win over Charlotte Flair. And we all know the story there, the friendship that was broken and all these things. Like, she was actually crying after that. So, criticizing someone for showing actual emotion is not a babyface move. I am sorry. So that was kind of the gist there. Again, the reference about her friends not being there anymore was kind of the big zinger of the whole segment there. But and that led into Becky saying that she wanted to give Liv an opportunity of having this 5-on-5 tag team match here, where it'd be Team Becky versus Team Liv. Now, John, we had Survivor Series just over a week ago, where we had 2 5-on-5 matches, much like this. So for me, I couldn't get into this to begin with. I was like, we just saw 2 5-on-5s. I will say it was great to have all the women getting this whole segment, like kind of all in all. I'm not sure if I saw someone tweet about it. I'm not sure if they're counting the contract signing, but at least maybe just all things put together. This match or this segment combined got like half an hour out of the show. It was pretty good. They got a chance to have a good match. They got the chance to be on TV. They got the chance to showcase what they could do. A far cry from the Queen's Crown tournament, as we were talking about for weeks there, not getting any time. So that was good. But I was just saying, like, I admittedly was kind of just protesting it to begin with. I was like, we just saw this. Like, I wasn't feeling it. Liv won, or no? Yeah, I think Liv got the pin, and then so her team won. The heels attacked after the match, and then she then she wound up leaving Becky lying anyway. Now she thinks she enjoyed the match. Eddie's saying Liv's promo made him believe that Liv can pull off an upset. Definitely that will happen. And the running narrative, as we've been talking about for weeks now, Steven Chambers saying the match next week. He's sure that Liv will give Becky a good match, but Becky should retain. Doesn't see anyone beating Becky for a while. I would agree.
Yeah, I agree.
Maybe we'll get a rematch. Steven Chambers saying, with Brian saying maybe at day one. What do you think about the 5-on-5, the contract exchange, the segment here, just all these things put together, leading into the title match next week?
Thought the 5-on-5 did a pretty good job of kind of mixing in some feuds together to make them more interesting. Of course, Balor and Doudrop being one of them, the tag feud being one of them, and then of course the main one with the champ and the challenger. I don't think you can't go wrong with something like that. I'm interested to see whenever they do have this match, if it's going to be clean or if there's some kind of like shenanigans where then there's kind of cause for a new match. I mean, do you think this is going to be a clean ending?
Probably not. I mean, it's good. The fact that it's on Raw, it's next week. They admittedly didn't build it up all that much. I feel like, they built up some. I feel like they could easily get another one out of it. So maybe it's Becky cheats to win or gets herself disqualified or something. They could easily run it back the next week, or if they want to draw it out to day one. Otherwise, right now Bianca's kind of tied up with Doudrop, so there's not really a ready-made contender that could easily step up like right away. So that would be my assumption. And I think that's fine. I think have there be some shenanigans next week, so then it gives Liv Morgan a pretty good, a good run there. Even if she doesn't win the title, it's a good run in the spotlight by holding her own with Becky Lynch. I think she only stands a game from that, and that'll be a good thing. So that's what I'm looking forward to, and that'd be my prediction that it's not going to be a clean finish next week, whatever that might mean. And hopefully they'll kind of maybe build someone up in the meantime, whether that's, I would assume eventually they're going to go back to Bianca and Becky. But otherwise, not too many on the face. Maybe Rhea Ripley at some point, but never. She and Nikki lost the tag titles. Not sure how much longer they're going to stay together. But speaking of people that could challenge Becky Lynch here, Eddie's saying maybe somebody like Ronda Rousey could potentially return and challenge Becky Lynch, taking the title from her, maybe even WrestleMania. That's a big money match. She's saying definitely that's been speculated about for years now. I mean, I think that was at least floated at one point for this past year WrestleMania, I believe, and it didn't come to fruition. But if Ronda recently had a child, so no, I mean, I think that was a couple months ago now. But who knows, right? We saw Becky Lynch return. I've seen some headlines that Ronda's been, talking to Vince McMahon, keeps in contact with him, and is still kind of, involved somewhat there. It's not like she's completely like cut out of her life or anything. So hey, anything's possible. Steven's saying maybe we'll see her in the Rumble. It's possible there. Who knows? Noel asking a question about the pay-per-view schedule. He's saying since the Rumble is in February, are they putting a mixture back WrestleMania or moving it to a different month next year?
I don't think they're having it at all unless it's going to be the Saudi Arabia pay-per-view in February, which I somehow doubt that. So
Yeah. Now, it is interesting. I mean, the schedule next year will be very different. Plenty of Saturday shows. Schedule is kind of moved back there with the Rumble being in February. Yeah, I mean, it'd be weird to have a year. I mean, honestly, maybe they do an elimination chamber match like at a show later in the year. I think we're going to get one eventually. Maybe not a whole pay-per-view as we have in the past, but I mean, at the same time, I could see them wanting to do that at a Saudi Arabia show just to add like more buzz to it, I guess. But at least right now, I guess it'd be probably safer to assume that it's not going to get one. I mean, we saw TLC this year, not happening. Maybe they're starting to kind of make some changes like that, and maybe that's another one. So that would kind of be my assumption. I don't think it's definitely. I would assume not going to be WrestleMania, but maybe the side show, or if not, probably at a show later in the year. But back to the present here, we had another title match on Raw this week. We had Damian Priest defending the title against Apollo Crews. He backed out of Crews backed out of a title match last week, and he got one this week. I guess he wanted more time to get ready for it. Now, my problem with this, John, was Crews, former Intercontinental Champion, definitely has credibility in that sense, but he hasn't really done anything since he arrived on Raw. Hasn't really won any matches. Hasn't really made a case for himself. So it's not like I entered this match like, oh yeah, I think there's a decent chance the Priest is going to lose. No, I was like, this was just it was going to be a good match, and it was. Crews is good. Priest is good. Yeah, and we talked about it last week. Priest with this like. I mean, I didn't get more. This week felt like more of the old Priest. It wasn't like more of the Angel and Demon thing they've been doing recently. This was more of kind of the Priest we had been seeing. So I guess that was a plus.
Same thing.
Yeah, but I didn't have a whole lot else to say about this one.
Yeah, I thought it was predictable. I thought we got what we were going to expect. So nothing really to report home. Just another win to kind of solidify him as the top of the mid card, really.
Yeah, no, that's fine. He's doing
I feel
well.
like he's going to get challenged by Veer. I feel like that's kind of what they're prepping him for. But
you bring up Veer. Noel saying, don't forget Veer Mahal.
I think. I don't even know. It's something.
Well, hey, as some people point out, Veer in a very rare club of guys that have gained a last name, whereas many have lost the last name. He's actually gained a second name. So, props to him for that one, for being in the history books there. But Noel saying, don't forget Veer's coming as a single star. Wonder what they'll do with him. For me, this is just, I'm sorry, but like Veer was Jinder Mahal's henchman, and he was getting just fed as like fodder to Drew McIntyre for weeks, if not like months. And now Mahal and Shanky are on SmackDown, and we're supposed to believe that Veer is going to be this dominant badass by himself. I never try to write anything off before it happens, but like that strikes me as kind of odd, and they're fighting an uphill battle trying to do that. If this, I'm not saying it is, but in my mind, like if they had any want or desire to have this happen, don't have the guy just get destroyed by Drew McIntyre week after week there, because he's automatically kind of entering with some dinged credibility there. But as for what he could do, I mean, I feel like they're going to try to like bring him in whenever he does. I mean, right now he's quote unquote coming soon to Raw. Whenever he does arrive,
for over a month now. So
whenever that day does come, they're probably going to do the standard, some squashes. Probably squash a guy, as much as I hate to say it, like Cedric, like people, all kind of on that unfortunate level, just kind of, and those squash match levels. And as you said, John, maybe have him challenge Priest. I'm not seeing much of a long shelf life for that, unfortunately. Again, I'm not trying to write the guy off, but like that's tough when you've already kind of got the deck stacked against you like that. But again, Steven's saying, when's he debuting? Enough of the promos already. I mean, I will say, like, when it's done well, you can add some like intrigue and some buzz for a character. Like, was Xylee on SmackDown? They're doing these cool like comic book vignettes, and it's some kind of cool and different. And she does not have the thing going against her like Veer, where it's like she's going to be a legit newcomer to the main roster, whereas Veer, we've seen him get beat up several times. And that's tough. No all pitching. They should bring up Sorav, I believe, down in NXT. Team them up there, have a new duo on Raw, as we were saying earlier. They need more teams like that. Michael pointed out he'll be having a fresh start. People probably will forget that he got squashed a lot. I mean, I'm biased. I'm here every week. I have an odd memory of some things like this where I'm like, oh my God, I remember this guy getting claymored and beaten up with a chair and nearly slashed with Drew McIntyre's sword many a time. But of course, like Michael was saying, maybe they're going for the fact that he's going to be one of the few kind of Indian-born stars they've got. Maybe they want to kind of, build him up for that reason or something like that. I think there's a lot of fairness in that. We've seen that before. And that's fine. Like that is, again, that is their prerogative, and that's fine. Again, I just say that it's going to be challenging for me, for maybe for others who like really do kind of have that like running thought in the back of their mind, like, we've seen this guy. He's not this like unstoppable monster they're trying to make him out to be. And so I digress. I'm not trying to like knock him or bury him or criticize him too much, but as Fernando saying, it was an odd episode of Raw. All things considered. We had one, as John, I saw you tweet about this as well. We had a fairly extensive video promo of Bobby Lashley, and admittedly, again, I think there's this at Survivor Series.
Yeah.
And admittedly, I tweeted about it too soon, because the first half of the video segment, it was hyping up Lashley's athletic background. It was hyping up his military background. And my silly self, I was like, are they turning a baby face? And then it switched, and it switched into the herpes and stuff. I was like, oh, maybe it's just like a biography Bobby Lashley brief special, inside of a video segment like that. So I don't know. It's weird that you're building up a guy that's been on the show, that was just on Survivor Series, that's been picking up wins on Raw. It's not like he's gone anywhere. Feels like maybe kind of a creative has nothing for you, but we don't want people to forget about you kind of thing. I don't know. With Big E being occupied with Rollins and Owens, maybe he doesn't really have anything to do right now. But yet again, I say, if you're going to reunite the Hurt Business, not do anything with them, well, kind of what are you doing? Hopefully they'll find something. Like, again, Lashley now, Balor, they've got all this talent. It's like, I hope they find something to do with them, because like they've got, again, Raw like load up in the draft. Now they've got to find a way just kind of to utilize the depth they do have. So and again, that's a challenge that they're going to be facing. Nando is saying that a babyface Lashley would be great to see on SmackDown. Unfortunately, the draft happened. Lashley stayed on Raw. Unless they could swing a trade, that could happen. It'd be cool to see Lashley face Reigns. That'd be pretty darn cool. Maybe that'll happen at some point soon. It's possible. I'd like to see that'd be something different, and I'm always for that. But John, what do you think about Bobby Lashley? Like, it feels like this is just, they're kind of spinning the wheels, and not really sure what to do with them right now.
Yeah, I saw people speculating that the reason they're hyping this up so much is because they're finally building to that Brock versus Bobby match, which I thought could be an interesting factor. I don't foresee Brock dethroning Roman Reigns, even though they're probably going to have another match at either Royal Rumble or Day One. So maybe that could be a way to introduce. Because remember, we've heard Lesnar say before he does what he wants, he goes to whatever brand he wants, so the door would still be open for him to go to Raw. And I think Lashley is going to continue to look dominant. And of course, we know Brock is a face now, and Bobby Lashley is a bad guy, and I think it'll stay that way. So who knows? Maybe we'll get that at WrestleMania. People have been wanting that for a while. You don't need a title to do that, similar to how Bobby and Goldberg had their match with no title involved. That would be a good direction to go.
Yeah, I mean, ironically, I think a year ago, like, or maybe around WrestleMania time last year, I was very, very hopeful that we would see Lashley Lesnar. It felt like that was an eventual direction they'd be going at some point. And admitted that just kind of like slipped my mind. I forgot that was a thing. And that's definitely been something that Lashley's been pushing forward. That's something that a lot of fans wanted to see. I think probably at this point, that'd more like the biggest, like, fresh matches they could do at WrestleMania. So I'm hopeful for that one. That'd be really cool. Have that in a Cowboy Stadium like that. That'd be a very big match to have. So fingers crossed for that one. But maybe additionally, Steven Chambers saying maybe we could see Edge versus Bobby Lashley. And then now that'd be something different there. I'd like to see that. And something different. More often than not, I want to see something different, different and good. There's definitely a key distinction there. But that'd be a cool matchup as well. They have a lot of possibilities, and then thankfully with Edge being on Raw now, it's a possibility. So definitely a lot of possible options on the table. A lot of stuff to look forward to. Not commenting based on that video package there. Lashley's a legitimate fighter, military folk style wrestling championship at 185 pounds. Now obviously we see Lashley now. He's just like massive, like, powerhouse of a guy, and it's crazy to imagine back then, all those years ago. But yeah, they're going through his background there, and it's easy just like to picture him as he is now and just forget about that. So yeah, credit to Bobby Lashley and his very impressive physical background there, and his military service and everything like that. Just definitely quite a story he's got. So ironically, like I tweeted about it, like I said, if they turn a babyface, like, writes itself. It's been a while since we've seen that, so I feel like we'll probably see that at some point sooner and later. But for now, we're gonna have to wait and see. But John, as Nando said, an odd episode of Raw, but I thought, all things good, a fairly good one. Like, not too bad. I admittedly, I liked it. Like, the first time, like, all in all, not a bad show. Not a bad show. What did you think?
I would probably have to say flat a 7, an average a 7 there.
Yeah, National with 7.5, Steven Chambers 6.5. John's giving us 7. Why not higher or lower?
Well, I just thought that the story development was average, and they didn't really do a whole lot to expand on kind of the stuff that they got going on. But you have to consider at the same time, they still have a month to go, so you can't really expect too much.
Yeah, it feels like maybe in some ways they're kind of maybe not playing their cards close to the vest, but like something kind of to that effect of like they know they've got time, so they weren't going to like do anything too crazy this week, and they did things happen. Like we had things kind of like to move along here, but very much so they got some stuff lined up for next week. At least the women's title match officially lined up, and plenty of things to look forward to. Otherwise, there, Anando with a 7 duckling out of 10. Michael with an 8.5. There you go. Or Rock with an 8.9. Noel with a 6, and Brian with a 7. So I feel like fairly, at least relatively higher than usual. At least, again, that we've seen in the past couple of weeks here, especially now we've at least moved on from the specifically the egg debacle from last week, and now we're seeing the aftermath was Austin events. At least it's not directly the egg there. So hopefully we can put that in the past and move on. But Eddie with a 7 as well. So it feels like that's kind of roughly the average. For me, I would probably go for like a 7.3. It feels pretty high. Like I'm feeling positive. I'm I'm admittedly probably biased by that. It's like coming out of an episode of Raw, feeling pretty good. That's a good thing. Like, it's good to actually watch Raw and be like, the show, like the first like hour and a half, I feel like actually went by pretty quickly, which is a very, very rare thing for all these days.
Yeah, I would agree with that, actually.
Yeah. And now it always drags. Like, there's nothing they can do. It's the third hour, but the way it was set up, we had Rollins and Balor and stuff in the beginning there, and yeah, it flew by, and that's a very welcome change as well. So all things considered, pretty darn good. Kevin with 6.7 as well. So it feels like roughly, maybe average, maybe slightly above average, which is again better than what we've seen in recent weeks here. Speaking of the egg, Nesh just saying that Red Notice was good. Obviously, the egg being the prop from that movie there. I haven't seen it yet. Again, I think I mentioned this on the Survivor Series show. My ability to watch non-wrestling things is somewhat limited, and Red Notice was not at the top of my list as much as I like The Rock and Ryan Reynolds combined. So definitely, I'll check it out at some point. But gonna need a bit of a break from the egg kind of thing there, because bad taste in my mouth from that one. Apparently, Fightful Slack broke today. The original plans for the egg apparently were to there was some vague report earlier on that there was the initial plans were a lot worse than what we got. Apparently, as Noel pointing out, the original plan was for the egg to be linked to a 24/7 title shot, and that would have been real bad. And thankfully, the movie studio was like, that doesn't work for us, brother. You're gonna have to do something better than that. And thankfully, they did, because that would have been kind of a waste to have the egg like that. Steven well said, saying he's tired of eggs. I am too, especially of the Cleopatra variety, as we saw with Survivor Series there. So, but at the same time, who said it? I think it was Anado saying, I mean, we're here as we're recording it. So now it's past midnight. It is the last day of November. And Anado saying he's already looking past December and on to the Rumble. I mean, hey, we take it day by day and week by week here. I guess we got to get through, Raw, NXT, and SmackDown here week in, week out. Hopefully it will be a worthwhile month. I know that's definitely the general sentiment of like just kind of an off month in a lot of ways, but we've got day one on January 1, so they've got to kind of build that up. So at least there's that. But otherwise, we're going to wait and see what's going to happen generally here. But we do have stuff to look forward to this week. We've got War Games from NXT on Sunday, the first TakeOver-like event, although it's not officially the TakeOver branding, from the NXT 2.0 era. So definitely War Games, old school versus new school. Lots of exciting matches on that card to look forward to. That'll be on Sunday. We'll have a post show for that one, along with all of our coverage. But John, Tuesday night, you and I will be back here to talk about the go-home show for that on the NXT post show. Otherwise, Robert and I will be here on Friday to talk. Actually, I don't know if we will. I will be covering GCW, so maybe not so much on that one. But usually Robert and I are here on Friday to talk about Friday Night SmackDown. The two Dynamite dudes, Marcus and Dominic, cover all things AEW with two Dynamite dudes on the Rampage. So if you're part of Team AEW, make sure to check that one out. Otherwise, we've got a great stream of interviews constantly coming at you guys, so make sure to leave a like and subscribe. All of our platforms are at SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, whatever it may be. We've got you covered. I can't even talk straight. War Games will be good. Looking forward to that one. I'm hopeful. Again, my heart's not ready for the NXT of old to be dead and gone, but I feel like that's where we're going. But we will suffer through here together. Again, as always, just want to say, everyone, we appreciate you so much for staying up with us, for talking about the wrestling here, whether it's good, bad, or anywhere in between. Nasha, I appreciate your support as always. You're so kind. We appreciate you. Appreciate all your support. Now just saying is a great show. Steven saying great show as well. We couldn't do this without you guys. Appreciate your support so very much. Very, very grateful for you all for tuning in, for supporting us. It really means a lot. And with that being said, again, I'm feeling actually very upbeat coming out of Raw tonight, and otherwise, other times, not so much. But wherever I fall on the spectrum, I try. John, I know you try. We all try together to do one thing above all others. John, can you tell me what that is?
Enjoy wrestling.
Indeed. Thanks for listening, everybody.